Why is it that so many people are scared to lift weights as they get older? Could they just be lazy? Some people might be, but I think a more likely reason is that they're scared to get injured. According to the CDC, over 27% of Americans over the age of 45 suffer from chronic pain. Now, big one here is back pain, and this is a big part of the opioid crisis and why so many opioids have been prescribed, and this is a leading cause for disability in so many people. And actually, it's a leading cause of disability around the world. But the problem is that if you're scared to work out and you don't work out, it will only increase your likelihood of getting injured in the future. And not only that, it'll help speed up the decline of any muscle loss and bone problems you get as you get older as well. Like I said, our muscle mass and our muscle strength will start to decline in our 30s, and this will only get worse as we age. So every single decade, we'll start to lose our muscle strength, and this will rapidly start increasing the older that we get. Not only that, our bone density will also decline as we get older. And our bone density only peaks at about our late 20s. And this will kind of continue similar to our loss of muscle mass, and it'll continue to accelerate the older that we get. Now, if you want to make sure you don't get injured and you can also do a lot of the things that you want to do when you get older, you need to make sure you have enough muscle mass and specifically muscle strength to do those things. But to do that, you need to be able to exercise regularly and work out regularly and do that in a safe way so that you don't get injured. Now, this is where stability training comes in, and this is where stability is so important. Now, when you focus on your stability, it's not just about maxing out and doing as much weight as you can every single workout, because the reality is that most people will cheat in their workouts, where they're doing a weight that's too heavy and they'll use their body's natural cheats and they'll do a more unnatural movement to get that weight up. And I'm guilty of this too. A lot of times I'll go too heavy and I just want to get the weight up and say that I did this heavy weight, and I'll cheat in a certain way. The problem is, if you do this over time and you continue to do this, this is what eventually will lead to an injury. So if this sounds like you want to take a step back and focus on your body and make sure you're moving in the right way so that you don't get injured. So really the way I look at this is you want to be working hard, but you also want to be working smart at the same time. Even sudden injuries like a torn ACL aren't always so sudden. Most of the time, it's because of some weakness in the joint and a problem with the stability of the joint that was the true cause of that torn ACL. It's kind of like someone who gets a heart attack. A lot of times, people who suddenly die from a heart attack, they don't actually suddenly die from it. That disease has actually been going on in their body for 2 decades before that happens. Now, what does it mean to be stable? In a nutshell, it means to be able to handle your weight. Now, if we're just talking about your body weight, it's being able to stop and slow down in a safe way without really thinking too much about it. Just being comfortable with your own weight. So in other words, it's really about being dynamic. So let's picture a guy who's a bodybuilder in the gym, and they're really good at working out. They can pick up these really big weights and they can squat really heavy, but that's really all they can do. If you ask them to go run a few laps on the track, they probably will really struggle. On the other hand, let's say someone who looks really lean, and one day they can go sprint up and down a basketball court, then the other day they can go run up a mountain, the other day they can go put up heavy weights in the gym, and they can deadlift twice their body weight. That person is a lot more stable and has a lot more stability and is a lot more dynamic. So think of someone like LeBron James. This is someone who can generate a ton of force in a very safe way and also prevent himself from getting injured. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to stability training is basically rethinking your mindset when it comes to the gym. You don't want to be coming in with the mindset of, I want to crush these weights no matter what. Sometimes that's good, but if you are working out in an unsafe way where you're moving your body in directions where it's not supposed to, then it's going to lead to an injury and you're not being stable. Now, the biggest things when it comes to stability training is 1, not cheating during your workouts. Number 2 is to focus on balancing. Number 3 is to focus on your breathing. And number 4 is to engage your core. So one way to do this is, first of all, watch yourself when you're working out. So if you have a partner, that's great. Ask him or her to watch you as you're working out and see if you're doing any weird movements or basically your body doesn't look even in some sort of way. You can even have them record you. Another way to do this is to set up a tripod and actually record yourself during your workout. You don't have to be that annoying gym person who tells people to move out of the way when you're working out, and when they get in front of your camera, you only have to do this for a couple sets of different workouts to really see how your body moves. And what you might find is you might be surprised at how your body's moving, because I tried doing this and I tried having my partner record me while I was working out, and I realized that I was moving my hips in a weird direction during some of my workouts. And also, next time you're at the gym, you can even look around you and see how often do you see people who are cheating or not actually working out in a proper movement when they're in the gym. So first off, you want to focus on balancing your feet. So basically, think of your feet as 4 different corners. So you want to make sure that all 4 corners of your feet are balanced during your workout. So let's say you are doing a squat or a deadlift. The first thing you want to focus on is your feet position, and make sure that your feet are evenly planted on the ground. If you're leaning towards one side, then you're already at a disadvantage because you're already not doing this in a stable way. You can also practice balancing on one leg at a time and seeing how long you can balance on each leg. Now, another way to focus on your balance training is doing step-ups. But instead of just focusing on the concentric, or where you're actually moving your body up, also focusing on the eccentric. So I mentioned that before, the importance of your eccentric movements. So basically, when you're stepping up on a chair, as you come down a little slower and focus on that movement. So one example of this would be every time you step up, come down to a 3-second count instead of just coming down right away. And then repeat this on your other leg. Now, the next thing you want to focus on with stability training is your breath. Your breath is a lot more important than just getting air in and out of your lungs. Simply changing your breathing can help you become more stable, but also change your entire workout and make your whole workout more efficient. One example to help show the importance of your breath is if someone were to chronically overbreathe or breathe too quickly, then that person is going to be way more anxious because they are engaging their sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is basically your body's fight or flight response. So if someone is breathing too quickly, they're going to be in a state of chronic stress. At the same time, if someone is breathing way less and a lot less than that other person, they're going to be in a state of calm and relax, which is your parasympathetic mode. And also the way that you breathe is going to affect your posture. So someone who is a regular mouth breather, someone who breathes through their mouth all the time, and they only use their upper half of their chest to breathe, they're going to be more likely to have a bad posture, and their head's going to be tilted forward. And that's going to really throw off their body's stability. Really what you want to focus on when you're breathing is creating more intra-abdominal pressure. Basically what that means is you're filling up your entire lungs with air. So there's 2 things you need to focus on to do this. One is using your nose, and number 2 is engaging your diaphragm. Now, if you're doing a very intense workout, you don't have to be breathing through your nose. It's okay to take shallower breaths through your mouth. I'm not really focusing on that. If you want to focus on your stability and your breathing, it's best to really focus on it when you're relaxing at home. So one way to do this is to lie on your back, have your knees bent, and place one hand right above your belly button and one hand right over your chest. And as you breathe in, see which hand is rising. If just your upper hand or the hand over your chest is rising, then you're not breathing correctly because you're only using the upper half of your chest or the upper half of your lungs to breathe. And this is going to lead to you breathing really shallow and non-efficient breaths. What you want to focus on is engaging your diaphragm. And the way to do that is to basically have that belly kind of stick out when you're breathing. Now, when you're initially learning to engage your diaphragm, it's okay to really focus on engaging your belly. But otherwise, when you're normally breathing, you don't want to make it so obvious. You want this breathing to be really subtle, where it's going into your lungs and it's engaging your diaphragm and your belly is extending, but you don't want it to be very noticeable. You want it to be kind of subtle. And also, you want to be breathing very silently. So if you are making a lot of noise when you are breathing, then again, that's a sign that you're not breathing correctly. So another way to help engage your diaphragm is to actually put a little bit of resistance. So now with your hands over your body, try to basically push against your stomach as it's expanding. So now you're going to feel like it's a little bit harder to breathe in because you're basically preventing your belly from extending. But this is a really good way to train yourself to engage your diaphragm when you're breathing. Now, the good thing about engaging your diaphragm when you're breathing is your diaphragm will help disperse this air all across your lungs. So basically, it's going to make your air exchange a lot more efficient. And also, this is going to help improve your posture and make sure that you have a proper posture. And this is really going to translate to any workout that you're doing. Now, also, if you're breathing incorrectly, there is evidence that shows that this can directly lead to an injury. In one study, they found that when they combined a breathing challenge or made it harder for people to breathe, and they combined it with weight training, they had a harder time of stabilizing their spine. So basically what that means is if someone is breathing poorly, then they're going to have a much harder time of preventing injuries. So for example, let's say someone is shoveling snow on their driveway and they're breathing poorly. That person is going to be at an increased risk of having a spine injury just because they're not breathing correctly. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is engaging your core. Now, working out your core is not something you have to do every single workout, but I think you should try to engage it about 2 to 3 times a week. The reason your core is so important is because when you have a stronger core, it can again prevent you from getting injured. Because your core kind of serves 2 functions. One, it can prevent excess load on the spine, and also it can help transfer load from the bottom half of your body to the upper half of your body. So there's a lot of different workouts that can help engage your core. Some of them are obvious, like planks or different types of sit-ups, but also squats and deadlifts. And I'm sure you can find a bunch online if you search on YouTube and find some great core workouts. So I'm not going to give you a full core workout, but definitely find ways to engage it during your workouts. One of the most important areas to improve on to prevent chronic diseases is to become metabolically healthy or improve your metabolic dysfunction. Now, what exactly does that mean? Metabolic dysfunction means that there is a problem with your body's metabolism. Your metabolism is basically all of the different